I, for the better part of this spring, have been questioning what Florida State's going to be. What are they going to be? Because last year was magical for them in a lot of ways up until it wasn't on Selection Sunday. But if you told a Florida State fan before last year started, hey, you're going to go undefeated, you're going to win the ACC, you're going to make a New Year's Six bowl game, will you take that? Now, obviously, you're leaving out the parts that, hey, the entire fan base feels like they had their birthright taken. That was the college football playoff berth by winning all their games. And Jordan Travis had a horrific injury. So those are parts you leave out. But I think in large part, you give them that 2023 script of being undefeated and winning the conference and say, yeah, I'm all in. So that part was awesome, right? However, I look at this year, and from a 30,000-foot view, you're like, all right, well, a lot of those dudes that made last year happen, a lot of those leaders that made last year happen, they're not there anymore. Jordan Travis, he's gone. Jared Verse, he's gone. Braden Fisk, Keon Coleman, like a lot of key players to this thing that helped establish the culture and the physicality up front that I just mentioned, they're gone. Florida State, 83rd in returning production. And so I kind of had this dialogue where I'm like, Mike Norvell is one of the best coaches in college football. I fully believe that. But how do you replace all that production? How do you replace that culture? And where does that leave Florida State moving into 2024? And Florida State obviously has done what they do in the portal. Mike Norvell just walks in there, kicks the door down, and says, I want you, you, and you. You see what we've done with transfers? You want to come play for us? You do? Okay, let's get it rolling. And the question has always been, well, Florida State, they use the portal well. Is that sustainable? And the way that I think about that, the answer that I got to that question rather internally was, you can't rely on something until you can. You can't live off of the three-point shot until you're pretty much lethal from beyond the arc. You can't live off of the deep pass and be a pass-happy offense, again, theoretically, until that's the way that you're able to make defenses pay. Johnny Manziel was an ad-lib kind of quarterback. It'll never work in college. It's not going to work consistently. Did that against Alabama. It's not going to work the next week. Not going to work the next week until eventually he showed us as a college quarterback. That was who he was. He had a lot of success with it. So for Florida State, can't live off the transfer portal, right, until you can. Until you do have multiple sample sizes of guys coming to Florida State, having potential, or having a solid track record from their previous stop at a lower level of ball at Jared Verse, at Braden Fisk, and then they go out and ball out Florida State. So it's not reliable. You can't rely on it until you can. I think Florida State has proven now you lose key pieces year in and year out. This is the nature of college football. But you can rely on the portal with Mike Norvell running the show to be successful and to be honestly pretty accurate when it comes to your evals and pretty phenomenal when it comes to your ability to bring those guys to Tallahassee and have the success that they're having right now. So, yes, a lot of that is eval. Yes, a lot of that is having the resources to bring those guys there. I think even further, if we want to talk about what it means on a Saturday afternoon perspective, it means that Florida State is great at adapting to their talent. Like, guys come to Florida State, like I just said, with a strong background and some, pretty solid skins on the wall. But more often than not, it has paled in comparison to what they do when they get to Florida State. Jared Verse was at Albany. I love Albany. I never watched an Albany football game in my life. Braden Fisk was doing his thing on Maction. Both of those guys are set to make a lot of money in the NFL because of what they did at Florida State. Keon Coleman, he was great at Michigan State. Don't get it twisted. I think a lot of folks have a very real understanding as to how good he's going to be in the NFL because of what he did at Florida State. Johnny Wilson, playing in the Pac-12, I think he did a lot for himself by going to Florida State and playing in that offense, doing the things he did there. So, again, what I want to make sure we say here is when you talk about the future at Florida State, yes, it's going to be transfer portal driven in 2024. Like, just the reality. There's a lot of guys that you're going to ask to step up in a big way. Malik Benson from Alabama, DJU most notably from Oregon State and Clemson. But with DJU, and this is where I want to really spend some time, a lot of folks are second-guessing Florida State because DJ Uiagalelei is going to be their quarterback, right? Hey, DJU didn't have his best showing at Clemson based on what he was as a recruit and what he was supposed to do there, taking over after Trevor Lawrence. Hey, Oregon State, looks solid, but it's a different ballgame than the ACC is. Can he actually deliver in the ACC? If I told you DJ Uiagalelei is going to have his best season of his college career, what would you think is true about Florida State? And then the question I would have after that is, why can't DJ U have his best season? In fact, on paper, I think everything is set up to point to he should have his best season. One, he's playing another year of college football. That makes 27 years of college football for DJ U. God bless him. He's got more playmakers around him than he's ever had. No shade on either school he's played at, just kind of the fact of the matter. Also, he's got the best play caller he's ever had. He should have his best season. He should be successful in this system. Mike Norvell, with what he's done with transfer portal players, much less quarterbacks, he should be successful in this system, and Florida State should score a lot of points in that respect. And so the other question that people are going to ask here is, well, how do you recreate that culture they had? How do you keep that temperature that they've had the last couple of years that allowed them to beat LSU by blocking the extra point and propel them to an undefeated season even when their starting quarterback goes down? There's this buzz now that this is the best team from a talent level that Mike Norvell's had. Is that true? We're going to find out. But I think the danger with having success and having new faces enter into that fold is that they feel like they are just entitled to winning. Like, the danger of success is entitlement and complacency. Now, however, even though they have some talent on this roster that we're going to talk about here right now, a lot of these dudes have chips on their shoulders and have potential they haven't just yet reached. Fentrell Cypress, a great example. Transferred in from Virginia. Good year last year. I think he expects to have a great year this year. Talk about Marvin Jones Jr. transferring over from Georgia. He was a 5-star out of high school. He didn't have the career he wanted to have at Georgia. He's looking for something to prove in 2024. DJ U is the perfect example of someone who has every right to have a chip on their shoulder and wants to prove other people wrong about how they've talked about his college career. I think the hunger paired with the talent, paired with the way that Mike Norvell does things and what he preaches that his players have taken to over the years, it's a really, really strong combo. Malik Benson, another guy to add to that list. He came in as one of the top, if not the top, junior college player in America to Alabama. Was expected to be wide receiver 1 for a lot of folks in Tuscaloosa. Didn't happen that way. Didn't work out for whatever reason. He's got something to prove. So the something to prove individually for a lot of these players, I think is going to mold and mesh really well to how they do it at Florida State. And I think that combo, again, I think that's scary for college football. I really do. Because even though there's some unproven pieces, the continual response out of Tallahassee is, hey, this is the most talented roster that Mike Norvell has had. Patrick Payton, Darrell Jackson, the transfer from Miami, is going to be eligible this year. Praise the Lord for common sense. Well, I guess the lack of common sense last year was troubling, but praise the Lord he's playing this year. I'm excited about Florida State. Who are they is a great question. I don't expect a drop-off. I really don't. A lot of question marks in the ACC. Florida State, their fair share of question marks, but by how Mike Norvell does things, how they utilize the portal, trusting the track record, Florida State, I expect to be a force yet again in 2024. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.